Okay, so what is process? Nina, please.
I think that it could be a noun common because in the handout says...
Actually, I think it will be a noun common because in the handout says that as it carries the meaning, it will be actually that, yeah.
Yeah, that's really clever. Yeah, it's a noun common.
Yeah.
Good job, Lucas. That's it. See you Monday. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Right. It's almost the same.
I want to know what you're saying.
Hey.
Hey,
Hi,
girl.
sweetie.
How you doing?
How was your class? Why you look angry?
I don't know. I feel uncomfortable, actually.
Why?
Why?
Because the teacher asked for my opinion, and while I was talking, Lucas just talked over me.
But why he interrupt you like that?
And the teacher, did he say something?
No, he didn't do anything. It made me feel like my opinion didn't matter at all.
Probably more than once you have been involved in a situation like this one. But why does it happen?
Is it a power, gender, or a discourse thing?
Well, in this video, we will discuss about the turn-taking dynamics and interruption patterns in classroom interaction.
When we talk about interruptions, we first need to understand how actually this turn-taking dynamics works in real life. And many people think that conversations are spontaneous, but actually they are not, because conversations follow a pattern and an organized and structured system, which has expectations about when people should speak and when people should stop to speak, and also when people, how people should use their time to speak. And interruptions break these rules. Every turn of conversation is constructed by linguistic resources. I mean, the grammar that we choose, the tone that we use, the volume of our voice, and even the time that we use in adding or intervention in the conversation. Now that we know how interruptions and turn-taking dynamics works in language and discourse, we need to think about gender, because these patterns are even more relevant when we are talking about mixed gender situations. Research has shown that women are interrupted more frequently than men, and especially mixed gender situations. This conversational structure reflects social inequalities between male and female.
To understand why interruptions matter, we have to talk about power. Foucault reminds us that power isn't just what authorities impose, it circulates through the small and everyday mechanisms and structural interactions. One of those mechanisms is discourse, specifically who get to speak and who must stay silent. Classrooms are powerful spaces. Bourdieu describes them as fields where some students speak with more linguistic capital, meaning their voices sound more legitimate or more worthy of attention. When someone interrupts another student, it is not only a conversational move, it is a redistribution of symbolic power. And it tells us whose speech counts. Gender norms also shape this. Tannen argues that men often use talk to negotiate status and dominance, while women often use it to build connection and avoid confrontation. Kiesling adds that masculinity is frequently performed through assertiveness, things like taking the floor, overlapping, or interrupting. And these behaviors are rewarded socially, so boys and men learn them early. Hucha and colleagues show that classroom participation is also influenced by teacher allocation. Women, for example, often wait for the teachers to grant them a turn, while men speak spontaneously and overlap freely. And this difference isn't about personalities. It is about how discourse norms reward some and silence others. From a feminist and queer perspective, not only women but also queer and non-binary students often fall outside dominant discourse norms. So their participation is sometimes ignored or interrupted because their ways of speaking do not match the expected or masculinized communication style. Foucault called this epistemic injustice. That is a form of inequality where someone's knowledge is dismissed because of social identity. And in classrooms, this means being interrupted doesn't just cut a term, it delegitimizes someone's voice.
To understand how this looks in our own context, we surveyed 100 university students about interruption and participation in their classes. First, the gender gap was unmistakable. Women report being interrupted more than twice as often as men, 32% compared to 15%. Meanwhile, men admit interrupting others more frequently than women's, with a 12% versus an 8%. This reflects what Zimmerman and West found decades ago. Interruptions tends to be gendered. We ask about participation and confidence. 76% of men say they feel comfortable speaking in class, compared to an only 45% of women. This shows Holmes' idea that women are often penalized socially when they speak assertively, so they learn to self-monitor much more. That could explain why 79% of women wait for teachers to give them the word, compared to 71% of men. When we ask about the cause of this pattern, 38% of students say multiple factors working together: social norms, personality expectation, and teacher attitudes. This match with Tannen's view that communication style is shaped by culture and not biology. The teacher's role is crucial. 58% said their teacher defended the person being interrupted, but 17% experienced teacher ignoring the interruption or even giving the word to the interrupter. This reflects Azar and Iqbal's finding that teacher reaction strongly affect the participation in classes. Finally, many students describe emotional consequences as anxiety, frustration, and self-exclusion. These are classic symptoms of epistemic injustice. As Foucault explained, when people feel their voice is not valued, they hesitate to use it. To make this dynamic more visible, we recreated a few classroom scenarios based on real answers from the survey. In the first scenario, a woman is sharing an idea, but a classmate interrupts her mid-sentence, and the teacher ignores the whole event. This is exactly what Zimmerman and West described: interruptions that reinforce domain. In the second scenario, a teacher gives the floor to a male student who interrupts someone else, instead of returning the turn to the interrupted speaker. Kuta et al. Found this pattern too, especially when teachers unconsciously favor more assertive and masculine discourse. In our last scenario, we show a teacher stepping in effectively. Let her finish and then you can speak. The simple correction reflects what Molina calls redistributing symbolic power.
When we compare findings with the literature, things become extremely clear. First of all, the gender interruption patterns that we found are not insulated. They are part of global phenomenon, and they also reflect how discourses regulates who gets to participate fully. On the other hand, these behaviors are learned. They are shaped and they are repeated by discursive norms, not by natural differences. Interruptions have consequences. As Ricoeur argues, repeated silencing can produce epistemic injustice, where people being dubbed in their own ideas or feeling that their contribution doesn't matter at all. Finally, as Butler will say, these patterns are repeated so often that they become naturalized. People just assume that men just talk more or women are quiet, but those are not truths. They are social performances. They are social performances created by discourse, power, and language.
But the good news is that us as teachers have enormous power to transform these dynamics, because teacher controls door allocation, participation structures, and feedback. So our interventions can either reproduce inequality or actively dismantle it. From a queer perspective, Luhmann says that teaching should expose norms, not just reproduce them. So teachers should discuss gender through taking up with their students and reflect on their own patterns. Delpit argues that teachers must teach students the rules of power explicitly, so everyone can participate on equal footing. That means noticing if boys dominate discussion and intervening when girls, queer students, or quieter students are interrupted. Research suggests multiple strategies, like structured door takings, rotating facilitation roles, tracking participation, use of talking tokens, and offering multimodal ways to contribute. And perhaps most importantly, addressing interruptions in the moment, and returning the floor to the interrupted student, naming the behavior and setting expectations for respectful listening. And as Molina says, if we want to change participation, we must change the rules of discourse.
So, at the end of the day, the question is, who gets to speak in our classrooms?
Whose knowledge becomes legitimate.
And what can we do as future English teachers to challenge and transform these dynamics?
Turn takings is not neutral.
Interruptions reproduce power.
And teachers have the capacity to create equitable and inclusive classrooms.
What type of noun is copy?
I think that according to the handout, it could be...
Actually, I think it is a
Wait.
noun.
Let her finish, and then you can...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so
Please.
sorry.
Thank you.
Don't worry, it's fine.
According to the handout, it is a noun.
Thank you. Yes, it is.